Hi guys, and welcome to this week's reading session. It's been 3 weeks since my last session, so this week we're going to be finishing off the book Mission Cycle. So if you didn't do that last video, it was 3 weeks ago, my last video. So you can go back and do that video where we were reading the first half of the book, and this week we're going to be reading the second half of the book and finishing it off. So just in case people have forgotten what it was about, I'll give us a little recap of what happened in the book so far, and then we'll all be on the same page to start reading. So if we remember, this book was about a girl called Nori, and she lives with her mum and dad and her grandma and granddad. And it's a story about her learning to ride a bike is the main point of the book. Nori's learning how to ride a bike, so it's called Mission Cycle because her mission is to learn how to cycle. So it's Nori learning how to ride her bike, but also something that's going on is there's some protests, some disruption happening in the city. There's the police around, the army are out, so it's a little bit scary. There's some things going on, but Nori doesn't quite understand. And another thing that's important to remember is that Nori has a friend called Wasim, and Wasim has gone away, so she doesn't know what's happened to Wasim or where he's gone. And she's learning to ride a bike so that her and Wasim can have a race together. So hopefully Wasim comes back and they can have the race together. And just before we finished last week, so Nori was learning how to ride the bike, and her grandma was learning, Nanny was teaching her how to ride the bike, but she crashed. So she went into a wall and she hit the wall and she hurt herself. And so she's still learning how to ride the bike. She's still trying, she's still practicing. So we're starting on page 12 this week. It has a picture of the bike at the top and it says day 2. So that's what we're starting from this week. Okay, so page 12. Day 2. On your mark, get set, go. Day 3. After cycling practice, Nanny and I pick apples. I steal a look at the street outside. There are no people. When your Abu was your age, we had to stay indoors like this, Nanny says. Turns out, that was when she taught Ami and Masai to cycle. They fell all the time and came running to her. You are so brave, my Nori. You will be a really good cyclist. Faster than Wasim? I ask. The fastest. Okay, so I'll just do 2 pages and then I'll go over what's happening in them. So page 12 where we started says day 2. So it's the second day that Nori's like riding the bike, she's learning. It says on your mark, get set, go. So if you don't know this phrase, it's what we say at the start of a race. So if someone was a running race, a cycling race, say on your mark, get set. So you're on your mark where you're starting, get set, like get ready, and then go so you can start. So Nori's just cycling in this one on day 2. On day 3, so after she's done some cycling practice, so after she's done some cycling, after she's done some biking, Nanny and Nori are picking apples. So they're picking apples off a tree. And Nori has a look at the street outside and there's no one there. So because of the curfew and the protest, it's very quiet. There's no people on the street. But Nanny says when Nori's dad was younger, so when Nori's dad, so obviously her nanny is Nori's dad's mother. So when her dad was your age, they had to stay indoors. So there was another curfew. And that's when she taught them to cycle. So that's quite good. And they fell all the time, just like Nori did. She fell off and they came running back to Nanny. But she says, she's so brave. You are so brave, my Nori. So if you're brave, is you're really confident. You don't get scared. You're brave. You're strong. And she says, you will be a really good cyclist. So she believes that if she's brave and strong, she'll be really good. And Nori says, will I be faster than Wasim? And Nanny says the fastest. So she believes that she's going to be really fast and good at cycling. Okay, page 14. Nanny, oh, Nanny is drying vegetables on the terrace for winter. Now who will help me ride the cycle? Shall I teach you? Dadu asks from behind his newspaper. It's so strange to see Dadu at home at this time. Strange, but amazing. Dadu, aren't you going out for a walk with your friends? Can't. There's curfew. I might as well get some exercise running behind my granddaughter. Yay! I prepare myself to look at the peach again and try not to think of falling. But then Dadu makes a scary suggestion. He wants to remove the trainer wheels at the back of my cycle. Can I really ride on only 2 wheels? That is like being in a circus. When I say that to Dadu, he laughs his exploding laugh. Everyone on the street does it, Nori, he says. You just have to practice. Using some tools, Dadu and I screw off the little wheels. And I'll just do the next page as well. Day 5. Ah! Okay, so back to page 14, so day 4. So what's happening here? So Nanny is drying vegetables on the terrace for winter. So Nanny's busy and she can't teach Nori to cycle today. So someone else is going to have to do it. And so Dadu, her granddad, says that he will teach her. And he says, shall I teach you? From behind his newspaper. So he's holding a newspaper in front of his face and he says, shall I teach you? And Nori notices that it's strange, it's weird to see Dadu at home at this time because he's usually at work. But it's strange but amazing. So it's weird, but she's happy that he's at home. And usually he goes for a walk with his friends. But because of the curfew, because they have to be home by a certain time, he can't go out for a walk with his friends. So he said that he'll get some exercise running behind Nori, running behind his granddaughter on her bike. Nori says, yay, she's really happy. And she prepares herself to look at the peach again and try not to think of falling. So if you remember from the last half of the book, when Nanny was teaching Nori to keep her focus, to look at something, to not fall, Nanny told her to look at the peach on the tree. So she looked at the peach and she cycled towards the peach. So she's ready to do that again. But Dadu makes a scary suggestion, so something frightening. And he wants to remove the trainer wheels at the back of her bike. So in this picture here, we've got the 2 little wheels. So trainer wheels, obviously on the bike, you have 2 big wheels. And then when you're younger, if you learn how to ride a bike, you have little wheels at the back, 2 little wheels, and it keeps you upright so you can't fall to the side like that. So it keeps you very stable on the ground. But Dadu wants to take them off because you'll have to take them off eventually to properly learn how to ride the bike. So we'll go on to the next page. And Nori asks, can I really ride on only 2 wheels? Because you'll have to balance like this, yeah, rather than just having the wheels to balance it. And she says, that's like being in a circus. So a circus is where people perform. You've got acrobats jumping around doing gymnastics and people riding. So there's a unicycle. So a bicycle is 2, so 2 wheels, whereas a unicycle, uni, is 1, so just 1 wheel. So people in a circus ride a unicycle, they balance on just 1 wheel. And Nori feels like she's in a circus and she's riding on 2 wheels. And when she says that to Dadu, he thinks it's very funny. So he laughs his exploding laugh, so a big laugh. And he says, everyone on the street does it, Nori. You just have to practice. So she just has to keep riding her bike and she'll get better. Using some tools, Dadu and her screw off the little wheels. So they take off the training wheels from the back of the bike using a tool. They screw them off. And then this last page, day 5, so this picture, it looks like Dadu is giving her a push and Nori's flying forward, so maybe she's a bit scared on the bike. So I've got some questions about that bit that I'll ask now, and then we'll read the second half. So the first question, who teaches Nori to ride the bike when Nanny is busy? So you can pause the video, go look back at the book and try and answer the question. So who teaches Nori to ride the bike when Nanny is busy? And what's Nanny doing as well? Why is she busy? Why can't she teach Nori? And the second question, why is Dadu at home? So Nori says it's strange to see him home. And so why is Dadu at home? And the last question, number 3, what does Dadu do differently when Nori is riding her bike? What does Dadu do differently when Nori's riding her bike? Okay, so the first question, who teaches Nori to ride the bike when Nanny is busy? So the answer is Dadu. On page 14, Dadu asks, shall I teach you, from behind his newspaper? So he's going to teach Nori when Nanny's busy. What's Nanny doing? Well, she's drying vegetables on the terrace for winter. So when it's summer, you can get vegetables and you can dry them so you still have things to eat in the winter. And the second question, why is Dadu at home? So this is the same page, page 14. And Nori says, it's so strange to see Dadu at home at this time. And she says, it's strange, but amazing. And it says that Dadu isn't going for a walk with his friends because there's curfew. So he might as well get some exercise with Nori. But because of the curfew, because they have to be home by a certain time, he can't go out. So he can't go out for a walk. So he's got to stay at home. And number 3, what does Dadu do differently when Nanny is riding her bike? When Nori, is riding her bike. So what he does, again on page 14 we can see it. So the very last sentence says, he wants to remove the trainer wheels at the back of my cycle. So if you remember, the trainer wheels are the 2 little wheels at the back of the bike, and they keep it stood up so you can't fall over. So instead of 2 wheels, you've got 4 wheels almost. So he takes the training wheels off Nori's bike, and so it will make it a lot harder to balance and to ride it. Okay, we're on page 17 now, and I'll read the next half of the book, and I've got a couple more questions, and then we're finished, so it might not be too long one today. Okay, day 6. We are still not allowed to go out. Is this gate getting taller? I ask Amy. Day 7. Please, I'm bored at home. I want to go to school. Open the gate, open it. I'm so sorry, Nori. I wish I could take you out, says Amy. How I wish you never knew these horrors. Okay. So these are 2 short ones, but I'll go over them now. So day 6, Nori is frustrated. She wants to go outside. She wants to see her friends. She wants to go to school. She says, are we still not allowed to go out? And she says, is this gate getting taller? Because she's always looking up at the gate and she can't see over it. She says, is it getting taller? She can't see anything. On page 18, day 7, she says, please, I'm bored at home. She's got nothing to do at home. She wants to go to school. She wants to open the gate. But Amy says, I'm so sorry. I wish I could take you out. She wants to take her out, but it's dangerous. And she says, I wish you never knew these horrors. So she wishes that Nori wouldn't have to live like this, that she would be able to go outside, but she's got to keep her safe. So she's got to stay at home. Okay, page 19, day 8. Dadu, what is curfew? I ask. Dadu looks uncomfortable. It's when the government tells us we should not go out because it's not safe on the streets, he says. I miss going outside. I miss my friends. I even miss my teachers. How long will we have to stay at home? I ask. I don't know, Nori, Dadu says, with a sad sigh. Grown-ups usually don't like to say, I don't know, so this must be serious. I don't like seeing Dadu sad, so I stand up. Okay, enough rest. Come, I have to beat Wasim. And page 20, day 10. It is Ami's turn to show me how to break properly. We practice all afternoon. When Dadu and Nanny came out at tea time, I am ready to show off. Just then, we hear a loud noise. Bang, bang. People are yelling. Hum kya chate? I know the next word. Azadi. My eyes burn. Ami lifts me up and we run into the house. Okay. So page 19. So Nori, like I said, she's frustrated. She wants to get out and she doesn't know what's happening. She's confused. And so she asks Dadu, what is curfew? And he looks uncomfortable. So he doesn't really want to tell Nori because he doesn't want to scare her, maybe, doesn't want to worry her. He says it's when the government tell us not to go out because it's not safe on the streets. So they've got to stay at home to keep safe. But Nori wishes she could go out. She misses her friends, she misses her teachers. And she asks, how long will we have to stay at home for? And Dadu says he doesn't know, he's not sure. And he has a sad sigh. So a sigh is like this, where you breathe out, so he's sighing because he's sad. And Nori thinks it's serious, so it's important because grown-ups don't like to say, I don't know. So if he knew, he would tell Nori, so he really doesn't know. But she doesn't like seeing Dadu sad. So she stands up. Okay, enough rest. So enough time sitting down, resting. Come, I have to beat Wasim because they're still going to have their cycling race. So she needs to get really good at cycling to beat Wasim in the race when he comes back. Page 20, day 10. So Ami has been teaching Nori how to ride the bike, and she's been learning how to brake, so how to grip the brakes and how to slow down. And they practice all afternoon. But when Dadu and Nanny come out, Nori wants to show them what she's been doing, that she's ready to show off, to show them how good she is at cycling. And just then she hears a loud noise, so a bang, bang. And her eyes burn, so her eyes feel hot, itchy. And Ami picks her up and they run into the house. So they're all frightened, they're all scared, they don't know what's happening, and their eyes are hurting, and they heard a bang, a loud noise. Okay, the next page, 21. In the dining room, we sit close in a tight circle. Everyone is coughing. Ami, what was that? I ask. Ami hugs me. There are people fighting, Nori. She wipes my eyes. I realize they are watering. Hers are too. When this happens, you hold your handkerchief against your nose and mouth, okay? Ami says. I hug her close. I am tired and scared, but everyone looks scared. I remember what Nanny said on my first day of cycling. I have to be brave. Day 11. The next morning, Abu wakes me up. Get up, lazy bones. Today I am going to teach you. Is it safe, Abu? I ask. I promise I'll take care of you if anything happens, okay? Abu says. Now, I hear Wasim is coming back in a few days. Don't you want to be ready for the race? As Abu watches, I cycle just like Dadu. And Nani and Ami taught me. I learn how to turn and make an 8 without putting my feet on the ground. Okay. So I'll go back, page 21. So all the family come into the dining room and they sit close. So they sit near to each other in a tight circle, so very close to each other in a circle. And they're all coughing. So they're all coughing because of the bang, because of the explosion. So what I think has happened is there's gas in the air, so it's making their eyes hurt, it's got in their mouth, they're coughing. And Nori's eyes are watering, so it's hurt her eyes. And she asks Amy, what was that? And Amy just hugs her. And she tells her that there are people fighting, so maybe there's a war happening. And Amy tells her, when this happens, hold your handkerchief against your nose and mouth. So she's got like a tissue like this, and she has to hold it against her like that because it'll protect her mouth and her nose from the gas in the air. And Nori hugs her close, and she's tired, so she wants to go to sleep, and she's scared, but everyone looks scared, so all the family are frightened. But Nori remembers what Nanny said to her on the first day of cycling. She has to be brave, so she has to be strong, yeah. And the next page, 22. So on day 11, the next day, Abu wakes Nori up. She gets her up. She says, get up, lazy bones. So saying Nori's lazy because she's sleeping. So she's lazy, she's sleepy. Today, I'm going to teach you, he says. And Nori asks, is it safe? And Abu says that he promises, so he's definitely going to take care of her. So he will look after her if anything happens. And Abu also says that he's heard that Wasim is coming home in a few days, so Nori's got to get ready for the race. And so as Abu watches, Nori cycles just like Dadu, Nani and Amni taught her. So they all the family taught Nori how to cycle. They taught their own little bit. And Nori learns how to turn, so she can turn the handles like this, and she makes an 8. So with making an 8 means she cycles in an 8 shape. So she turns and then she turns again. And she does it without putting her feet on the ground, so she can balance, so she doesn't have to put her foot on the ground, she keeps going. And the last 2 pages I think we have. Okay, page 23. Just as I start getting bored of cycling by myself, Wasim returns home. Finally, Abu tells me the army lifted the curfew for a few hours, and Wasim's army quickly drove back to Srinagar. Wasim brings an armful of chorchor bread. I give him the peach I focused on during mission cycle. I am so happy to see that he is safe. Go bring your cycle, Wasim, I say. Wasim looks sad. I left it out on the street, and my cycle got bent out of shape during the fighting. Oh, poor Wasim. How will we do mission cycle now? Wait, I have an idea. Mission cycle final day. And the final picture is a picture of Nori on the front of her bike and Wasim is on the back of her bike. So they're sharing the bike, they're riding it together. So I'll just go over page 23 and then I've got some questions and then we're almost done. So Nori says just as she starts getting bored cycling by herself, so she's not that interested in cycling by herself, she wants someone else to do it with. And it's great because just as she gets bored, Wasim returns home, finally. So finally means it's been a long time since he'd been home. And Abu tells her that the army lifted the curfew for a few hours. So they let people go out for a few hours. And so Wasim's family drove back home very quickly. And Wasim is carrying some chorchor bread. I think in the first half of the book, we know that Nori really loves the chorchor bread that Wasim's family make. And so she's really happy with this. And Nori gives Wasim the peach that she looked at when she was cycling. So if you remember, Nanny told her to look at the peach, so she'd look something to look at so she didn't fall off. So she gives him that peach that she looked at. And Nori is very happy because Wasim is safe. And she tells Wasim, go bring your cycle so they can have their race. But Wasim looks sad because it turns out he left it on the street. So he left it outside when he went away, and it was broken during the fighting. So it got bent out of shape during the fighting. So while the fighting was going on, someone broke Wasim's bike. Nori says, oh, poor Wasim. So she feels sorry for him. What will we do with Mission Cycle now? So how will they have the race if Wasim doesn't have a bike? But Nori says, wait, hold on, I have an idea. So she's thought of something, a way they can solve the problem. So the final page, 24, Mission Cycle, final day, and Wasim and Nori are sharing a bike. So a nice ending, I think, to that story. So I've got 3 questions about this last part of the book, and then we're all finished. So, question 1. What happens when Nori is ready to show everyone her cycling? Like I say, pause the video, look back in the book. Yeah. So what happens when Nori is ready to show everyone her cycling? Question 2. When Wasim comes back, what has happened to his bike? When Wasim comes home, what's happened to his bike? And the last question, what does Nori do to help Wasim? What does Nori do to help Wasim? Okay, so question number 1, what happens when Nori is ready to show everyone her cycling? So this is on page 20, day 10, and says, so Nori is ready to show off, she's ready to show everyone her cycling. Just then we hear a loud noise, bang, bang. So there's an explosion, there's some gas in the air, and it burns their eyes and it makes them cough. So something dangerous is happening and they have to run inside. And question 2, when Wasim comes back, what has happened to his bike? So this is on page 23. So Wasim has come home and Nori is very happy to see that he's safe, but his bike got broken in the fighting. So he left it on the street and it got broke in the fighting. So he doesn't have a bike anymore, he can't ride it. And question number 3, what does Nori do to help Wasim? And on the very last page, we see this, page 24, the final day of Mission Cycle. Nori has learned how to ride her bike and Wasim is sat on the back. So they're sharing their bike so they can both ride together. So that's the end of Mission Cycle. I really liked that book actually. I think it had a nice story and a nice ending. I hope you all enjoyed it, guys, as well. So that's the end of the session this week. So I'll be back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks to do my other session. We'll start a new book then. I hope you all have a great week and I'll see you next time. Bye.